Alright, example number 8. Example number 8. If you ever need to go back and just rehear this lesson, you can find it on Canvas or YouTube. If we have x squared plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0, and they are asking me to solve by factoring. We know we could solve by graphing. Okay, we could do negative b over 2a and find our x and put that in the middle of our t-chart and pick two x's that are smaller and two x's that are larger and graph the parabola and see where it crosses the x-axis. We could say that a was 1, b was 5, and c was 6, and we could do the quadratic formula, or we could solve this equation a third way, which is called factoring. We do have to make sure our equation is set equal to 0. I hope everybody in here knows how to factor a trinomial. We have. I'm so glad that Logan realized that we have factored. He said we've been factoring for about 8 years. Alright, when you solve a quadratic equation by factoring, you have to make sure it's set equal to 0. You have an x squared, so you need an x times an x. Are the signs going to be the same, or are they going to be different? The same, and they're both going to be plus plus. And then this is where Tegan just said, is this where you're looking for two things that multiply to be 6 that combine to be 5? Absolutely. And what are they? 3 and 2, or 2 and 3. Doesn't matter which order that you put them in. What do you do once you have your two factors that are multiplied to be 0? Add it. Try again. Multiply it? Nope. X plus 3 times x plus 2 is equal to 0. What is the?
And then you solve for them.
And then you solve for them. So if two things multiply to be 0, then each of those things could actually be equal to 0. And those things are called your factors. So if x plus 3 times x plus 2 is equal to 0, then that means if something multiplies to be 0, then one of those things, or both of those things, could be equal to 0. So you set both factors equal to 0 and you solve. So one of your solutions is negative 3, and your other solution is negative 2. And this is where most of you are going to go, this is so much easier than the quadratic formula. Okay? It's not as near as fun. Okay? And also, wait a minute, there are some that are harder than this one. Also, this would be easier than graphing, in my opinion. Okay? But if we graph this parabola, it would cross the x-axis at negative 3 and negative 2. Okay? Now, your trinomials can get harder to factor. Alright, so let's do a few easy ones and then we'll look at some hard ones. Alright, example 9. Everybody got 8? I have 8, 9, 10, and 11. That's all the notes that we're going to take today. Everybody got 8? Alright, example 9. Alright, if we have something like x squared minus 4x equals 0, again, before we start to factor, we have to make sure that one side of the equation is equal to 0. This is a trinomial, so we're going to do our two binomials. We have an x squared, so that means we have an x times the x. Same signs or different signs?
All the same.
Same, and they're both going to be? Both going to be minus. What multiplies to be 4 and combines to be 4? 2 and 2. Okay? So I wanted to show you this example because in this example both factors are exactly the same. So there is no reason in this world to write x minus 2 equals 0 and x minus 2 equals 0 because you're going to get the same answer. So you're just going to set one of your factors equal to 0 because they're both the same. And you'll add 2 to both sides, and you'll just get one solution here. Sometimes you can get one solution. Graphically, that would mean your parabola just touched the x-axis at one point. Graphically, it would just touch at one point. quadratic formula wise, that would mean your discriminant would come out to be, does anybody know what the number under the square root would be if you only have one answer? Come on, somebody can.
2.
Nope. Who said, say it louder? 0. If the number under the square root came out to be 0, you would only have one solution. Y'all haven't seen any of those, have you? Good job, Frida. Alright, example 10. You may have a few problems in your homework that are not set equal to 0. So number 10 is to remind you to set the equation equal to 0. You have to do that when you are solving. So that means our negative 3c needs to take a trip over to the left-hand side, and our positive 10 needs to take a trip over to the left-hand side, and that's going to give us c squared what? Plus 3c minus 10 is equal to 0. C squared plus 3c minus 10. We're going to invite him in the next time, and he can do some math if all he's got to do is wander in the halls. C squared plus 3c minus 10. All right, let's factor. Are the signs the same, or are they different? They're different, so we're going to do c plus, c minus. Ask yourself what multiplies to be 10. And this time you're subtracting to be 3 because the 10 is negative, meaning one number will be positive and the other one will be negative. Is it 1 and 10 or
No, it's
2 and 5? Okay. All right, now you got to decide which one's positive, which one's negative.
The 2 will be.
The 2 is positive. No, the 2 is negative.
The 2 is negative and the 5 is positive. A positive 5 and a negative 2 is going to give you your positive 3. Are we going to get 2 different answers this time or just one?
2 different ones.
2 different ones because our factors are different. So you're going to set c plus 5 equal to 0. You're going to set c minus 2 equal to 0. And you'll get your 2 solutions.
C equals 2 and C equals negative 5.
Exactly. C equals 2 and C equals negative 5. Alright, last example is going to be a harder trinomial to factor. The 3 examples that we've looked at have been the easier trinomials because you had a 1 in front of your square term. So last example, example 11. You can write on the back of your foldable if you don't have enough space. Alright, so if we have something like 2n squared is equal to negative 9n plus 5. 2n squared is equal to negative 9n plus 5. What have we got to do first? Okay, Maddie says get it equal to 0. So we're going to send the negative 9 over to the left-hand side, negative 9n, and a positive 5. So that's going to give me 2n squared, what? Plus 9n minus 5 equals 0. Okay? So now we're going to separate the men from the boys here. We haven't factored a harder trinomial in probably a week or 2. Alright? I'm going to hit my pause button, and I'm going to let y'all figure this one out. Alright, what were the factors? What were the factors?
Negative 1 and
Well, tell me the whole factor, not just minus 1. Okay, she said 2n minus 1 and n plus 5. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay, remember you have to check the inner product. That would give you negative 1n, and you got to check the outer product. That would give you positive 10n. Y'all remember the harder trinomials?
Yeah, I remember them.
Okay, and the negative 1n and the positive 10n have to combine to be 9n. Then you take each one of your factors and set them equal to 0. So you're going to set 2n minus 1 equal to 0, and you're going to set n plus 5 equal to 0. So 2n minus 1 equals 0. That's going to be a little bit harder to solve. You're going to add 1 to both sides. That's going to be 2n is equal to 1, and then you're going to divide both sides by 2. So
Which equals 1/2.
So one of your answers is 1/2. The other equation you can probably solve without any work. If n plus 5 equals 0, n is equal to -5.